Please stand clear of the doors. Por favor, manténganse alejado de las puertas.
Hey there, everybody, and welcome back to Monorail Monday. You're saying, oh my gosh, I can't believe it's back. Yes, Monorail Monday is back. Now, we're not going to be doing seasons like we did before, where I'm going to do like 7 or 8 weeks in a row. I'm just going to have them more sporadically, just here and there, as I feel like throwing something up or something Disney-ish comes up. I'll throw out a Monorail Monday every once in a while, and we'll talk about something, some top 5 lists, thoughts on Genie or something like that, talk about those kind of things. What Monorail Monday is, if you haven't seen it before, it is basically my time of working at Disney in the past. I worked at Disney for about 8 years, and a lot of behind-the-scenes stories, things you wouldn't normally hear, things that Disney's behind the scenes about an attraction. They talk about some of the technical stuff, but they don't talk about what really goes on behind the scenes, what's really going on. So that's kind of stuff I get into. We got a ton of back episodes of that, but we're going to get into today's Monorail Monday. Today's Monorail Monday is actually going to be a top 5 list. It's going to be the top 5 best things about working at Disney. Not specifically monorails, although monorails will be part of this, but it's going to be top 5 best things about my time working at Disney. Now, you may be saying, oh, what about the worst things? Yes, those will be coming. That'll be another episode, the worst things. Be a little more negative. So we'll start off with the positive version. And without further ado, let's start talking about the top 5 best things about working Monorail Monday. Number 5, free entry. You get free entry into the parks, and we know how expensive the parks are now. They were expensive back when I was working there, but not nearly as expensive it is now. I mean, it's over $100 a day if you go for a single day entry. And even if you're buying 4 or 5 days, it's still very pricey to get in there. So being able to get in for free is a huge perk. When you're working there all the time and you're working full time and sometimes overtime, you didn't want to get in the park as much. Not nearly as many people in my day went to the park in their off hours as are now. I think social media has played a huge impact in that. And also expansions as more people are working there. But I think social media has made a huge impact. A lot of people want to post on their Instagram, their cast members, they want to post all the content. I work here, I can post stuff all the time. So it's real easy to generate content that way. So I think that's played a huge part. Back when I was working there in the 90s, late 80s and 90s, people weren't nearly going to the parks as much on their off days as they seem to do now. Our off days, we went and did other stuff in the Orlando or Central Florida area. And the weekends, we would go ball games, the Gators, the Seminoles, the Hurricanes. We go to those football games, Buccaneers, the Dolphins, later the Jaguars. People did a lot of other stuff. We go to the beach, Space Center, and all that sort of thing. So, but the free entry was still a pretty cool perk. Sometimes abused a little bit. People come into town, all of a sudden, everybody suddenly is your best friend. Hey, can you get us into Disney for free? Well, you know, as much as I want to get up at 7 a.m. to take you into the park and walk around with you all day, and generally you were supposed to accompany, if you got them with your gate pass, you were supposed to be with them all day. Everybody doesn't always do that, but that was you're technically supposed to be with the people you were getting in. So number 5 best thing, free entry. Number 4, friends. Make a lot of friends. Monorails was a big department, so you ran into a lot of different people working at the different hotels, the Contemporary, the Polynesian, the Grand Floridian, TTC especially, and then Epcot. Met some people out of our department in Epcot walking around to the break rooms in the cafeteria over there. But TTC, you had buses, watercraft, monorails, parking, a huge conglomeration. Everybody had their own little niche or club. but you would definitely meet a lot more people in that area. So we often had a lot of friends who were in the different departments, but within your own department, monorails was great. In addition to working and just driving the train, doing the things you're doing, you're hanging out with friends, you're making friends. When we had special events, we would go and do those events together. I had a lot of folks that I did fantasy football, fantasy baseball, way back when, before it became the big thing it is now. We did fantasy football in monorails. We did bowling league in monorails and set that up, and hung out with a lot of friends. I wish I had kept up with all of my friends from some of the different events and different years I spent on monorail. I wish I did keep up. If you're somebody that I worked with and you want to get in touch with me, well, comment on this thing right here. But friends, making friends and experiencing a lot of different things with these friends on a daily basis was number 4. Number 3, unique experiences. There are not many jobs that will give you the chance to have unique experiences like you will get at Disney. I drove a monorail. I worked in merchandise, which, it's retail. It wasn't that unique, but you get to see so many things in backstage and do so many different things. I had friends who worked and made name tags and came up with crazy name tags that we ended up with. Working Space Mountain, working Big Thunder Mountain. As you may have known from some of the previous Monorail Monday episodes, I did, one day where I was at merchandise. Then I worked over at Big Thunder Mountain, ended up at Pirates of the Caribbean. I worked, 3 or 4 different areas in one morning, changed costumes multiple times. That's just cool. That's just a really interesting experience. It was crazy. And, working an office job, working retail or anything like that, it's just not the same. It's not going to provide some of the craziness that I saw on a daily basis at Disney. So those unique experiences with Jungle Cruise, and I wasn't a trained skipper. I went and worked there as an extra overtime thing. So I was basically working either the queue or unload, load, unload. So I didn't get to skipper a boat, but got to participate in the attraction and experience a lot of different things. So seeing all these different areas, I worked overtime at the studios, worked overtime at Epcot, worked overtime, lots of overtime in different areas of the Magic Kingdom. It was really cool to see all of these different areas and experience the way they're doing things, the way a different department or attraction works. It was really interesting. It was unique to be able to see all these things, do all these things. There's just a lot of cool memories of trying different experiences, different jobs, different things to do. And so that was really cool. So that's number 3, the unique experiences. One more thing with the unique experiences, I should say, there were things like the cast Christmas parties, which changed quite a bit after my first couple of years there and became much more like, here's a ticket, go in during regular hours, and then backstage you can stop by this little space here that we've set up, and you can, it's basically like cast member break room, and you can get cookies or stuff like that. That wasn't as interesting, and but it was basically, think of the Mickey's Christmas parties, but think of it as just your employees, just the cast members going. That's what the cast Christmas parties were initially. Only cast members on the holidays, cast members and their families. And those were amazing. We had like popcorn for $0.25 and turkey legs for 50 cents and things like that. They have special deals like that where it was really cheap for us to buy food. And you had Santa and you had the nighttime parade. Basically all the stuff you see at the Christmas parties now, that's what the Christmas parties were like back then, before they came up with the hard ticketed, let's have the same kind of thing but invite guests and then charge them for it. But that's basically what it was. So that was one of the most unique experiences and really cool ways to experience the parks. So now let's do number 2. Number 2 is behind the scenes, getting to see how things work. Now, some people designate that if you're posting videos or pictures on the internet of how things work at Disney or behind the scenes, they could not safe for magic. To me, the magic is the behind the scenes stuff. As a kid, I loved seeing how things work. How does this operate? How does it function? What is the special effect? How do the Haunted Mansion things work? The ghosts, the Pepper's ghosts and stuff. Really old tech, but it's fascinating how that all works. How do the ride mechanisms work? I was always fascinated by all of that stuff. So I wanted to know that, and knowing how all of the magic happens behind the scenes in the Haunted Mansion, for example, or how everything works underneath the American Adventure, the Pirates of the Caribbean. Knowing how that works, seeing the behind the scenes of that is every bit as magical to me as just walking through and just it happens and you don't know how it is and it's just something going on. It's just a cool experience. I love seeing how it works. So working at Disney gave me opportunity to see how things work, see underneath what's going on underneath the monorails, what's going on in the software systems, working during testing and testing the brand new monorails as they come on, seeing how that stuff gets hooked up. What are we testing for? How many hours are we running before these can actually start loading passengers, running them empty during the day, doing drive training to teach new pilots how to run the monorails. That kind of stuff fascinated the heck out of me, and working the other attractions gave me a little bit of a glimpse into some of those as well. So that was really cool. I've worked roller coasters at Disney and outside of Disney, so I always have been fascinated. I'm Mr. Coaster. I mean, let's face it, I am Mr. Coaster. I love roller coasters. Love seeing how things operate and how things work. Love working the roller coasters with block systems, running the tests, doing the first couple of runs in the morning to make sure everything's okay. So getting to do that at Disney was also very cool. But as a little kid, I loved monorails. I wanted to be a monorail pilot. I wanted to see how things worked. I wanted to see them come off of the spur and onto the main line and vice versa and go back. So that kind of thing, behind the scenes stuff, was always super amazing. Watching the parade get ready to come out, watching them sort of work themselves into the position where they're ready to start coming on stage. Seeing that kind of stuff, seeing some of the characters, friends of Mickey, get ready to present themselves on stage. Seeing that kind of stuff, you see, Mickey walking around and maybe he doesn't have his head together that day, and just seeing that sort of half costume thing was great. Some of you may remember the story of Cinderella, or I think it was Snow White, in the lunchroom. It was kind of hiked up, her skirt hiked up, and she kind of had her legs propped up on the booth, eating a cheeseburger and smoking a cigarette, because we had smoking in the cafeteria back then. That kind of stuff was fascinating to me, to see just how things operate when it's not all picture perfect in front of on stage. You can see the magic on stage. That's really cool, but I love seeing how does this all come together? Where does it come from? What makes everything work? That fascinates me. And actually, this would probably be the number 1, except for sort of a twist. So let's talk about what is number 1 and why is it number 1? Number 1 I'm putting here today is the ride previews. Getting to ride some of the new attractions before they are operational to guests. Nowadays, with the social media and everybody's got a camera in their phone, this information comes so fast and furious. But when I was working there, you had to actually go and experience the amount of photos and videos and stuff that would come out on some of these things wouldn't come out nearly as fast. You had to be there and experience it. And I think this would probably be just a little bit behind the scenes thing, except for the best ride preview experiences I had were one riding Splash Mountain before it came online, and riding the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror. Tower of Terror was kind of more of a normal ride preview. You ride it, you get off, you go around. And so, you got to ride it over and over again without waiting in line. So that was really cool. And of course, we had drop rides around the country at various amusement parks. Six Flags had drop rides, but nobody had anything that was themed like Disney had for this ride. And then also the way the elevator comes out of the shaft and then proceeds through the Twilight Zone and heads to the main draft for the drop sequence. And if you don't know, initially the drop sequence was a single drop. You went up, you dropped, right over. There wasn't the up and down and the randomness and stuff. That all came later. But initially it was you go up, you drop, ride's over. So it changed a bit, but at least early on you got to do that. Did that over and over and over and rode a whole bunch of times without any wait, just circled back around over and thought it was amazing. Even with just the one drop, thought it was just amazing, fantastic. Those drop rides were scary, but also a whole heck of a lot of fun. But the best one was Splash Mountain. Splash Mountain, since I was a kid in the 70s, visiting the Magic Kingdom, I always thought, Six Flags has these flume rides. Why doesn't Disney? I get that they don't have the big giant roller coasters, but they do have roller coasters. And I'm like, flume rides are not particularly scary. It should be a pretty easy ride for them to put out. It's not crazy technology. They have water rides, Splash, Pirates, and things like that. So why don't we have a flume ride? It just always boggled my mind. Why don't we have a flume ride at Disney of some sort? They could make a really cool one. And once they built Splash Mountain, it was obvious they did create a very cool flume ride. So watching that get built over time was really cool. But in particular, I liked getting to, they had a bunch of days of cast previews, signed up for it. All right, I'm going to do it. I'm going to, work monorails until like 3 o'clock. Then I'll go ahead and change and I'll walk into the Magic Kingdom and I'll go over there and ride. So basically ride previews were offered, some after hours, but most of them were during park hours. So I would go over there, sign up, and so I'm just going to go over there and sign up for previews at Splash Mountain. So I got on there and just rode that thing over and over and over again. And I did it for hours. I think I rode like one day by the time I got changed and got over there, it was probably like 3:30 something. It went to 7:30, 8 o'clock. I don't know. It was something like that. But it was hours. I spent hours on that ride. Didn't have to get off. Didn't have to circle around. Basically, there were few enough people riding at that particular time, and they were cycling as many boats as they could. You just stayed on. So I stayed on and rode, and you could see guests are, gathering outside the ride and watching. They're watching to see what's going on, and, hey, the ride's testing and things like that. People are figuring out, but there isn't the social media stuff that there is now, sort of where everybody knows. Everybody's like, oh, what's going on? What's this ride? Wow, what is this? I haven't heard anything about this. So it was kind of cool to watch people gather. You wave it if people are going around. But I rode that thing so many times before it opened. So I just ended up riding that thing so many times before it opened, hours and hours, just round and round and round. The little, the fake drop, the kind of bunny hop there in the middle of the ride when you drop into the laughing place. I was like kind of turning around and facing the back every time so I could like do it backwards. I was just doing all sorts of, trying to change seats sometimes to see if that made any difference. I was come up with all sorts of different ways to ride the ride, looking for different things just to see what was going on with it. And that was fascinating. That was amazing. So basically, that's the number one, the ride previews, specifically because of those two particular rides really made a difference in that. Otherwise, ride previews would probably be a little lower, but those particular experiences were so cool, I will elevate them slightly ahead of the behind the scenes. So that's the top 5. What are your top 5 experiences at Disney as a guest? That's a whole different kind of top 5, but curious to hear what would people find the most interesting, or what do you think might be the most interesting thing about working at Disney as a cast member? Or if you have worked as a cast member, what were your 5 most amazing experiences there? Certainly after hours things, unique experiences. I did some after hours television events that were filmed where they had cast members show up and we were just supposed to act excited, pretend we were guests, and they were filmed like for Christmas stuff or for TV specials. And those were filmed like midnight until 2 a.m., 3 a.m. or something like that in front of the castle. So I got to participate in a few of those. Those were really cool. So that's the top 5 best experiences as a cast member. The latest Monorail Monday here for you. The next one that will be coming up, I'm not sure exactly when, but sometime in the next couple of weeks, a month or so, we'll do another Monorail Monday. This one will be top 5 worst things about working at Disney, or worst experiences working at Disney. So be sure to tune in for that. You'll want to know what the bad things about working at Disney are. There are a few things. Just like any other job, it's a job. So it's not just all fun and magic all the time. So we'll get into that then. Thanks for joining us. I got lots of other stuff. Monorail Monday's coming back. Also got some cruise videos that'll be coming up shortly here. And we got some other videos coming. So be sure to check those out. Like, subscribe, share, comment, tell your friends. And remember, kids, have a good time all the time.